Hi everyone, I'm Teacher Andrew. While I've been stuck at home, I've been spending a lot of time in the garden. Right now I'm spending some time with my chickens. Did you see them on the way over? Some people have asked, what's a canoe? And a canoe is a kind of boat. I can share more information about canoes as time goes on. If you hear some drilling in the background, that's my friend Brian. He's working on making some doors for our hoop house. We're going to read Tasty Baby Belly Buttons. It is by Judy Sierra and illustrated by Milo So. Tasty Baby Belly Buttons. In Japan, long ago, many towns and villages were terrorized by a gang of oni. These oni were great, hulking monsters. Some had red faces, and some had green faces. They all had sharp teeth and horns on their heads, and they wore no clothes except for the skins of tigers, which they wrapped tightly around their hips. The oni lived on an island called Onigashima, and from time to time they would leave their castle and travel around Japan, kidnapping children in order to find their favorite treat, belly buttons. In one village lived an old woman and an old man who had no children. "If only I had a child," sighed the old woman. "I would teach her how to cook the best millet dumplings in Japan." The old woman was a very good cook. "If only I had a child," said the old man, "I could teach him to protect people who are weak and helpless." In his youth, the man had been a warrior. One morning, as the old woman was washing clothes in the river, a melon came floating along. Sunbara, sunbara. She waded into the water and nudged the melon towards her until she could lift it, and then she carried it to the field where her husband was working. The old man was delighted to see the melon, for he was hungry and thirsty. He was just getting ready to cut it open when he heard a crying noise, "Boro, boro," coming from inside. He and his wife pulled the melon open with their hands, and in the center they beheld a tiny, perfect baby girl. They named her Uriko Ime, Melon Princess. Uriko grew more quickly than other children, and by the time that she was 5 years old, she was cooking millet dumplings with her mother and learning sword fighting from her father. One day, everyone in the village heard an awful sound. A troop of oni came tromping into town. Zujin, zujin. They grabbed all the little babies they could find, and they put them into their cart, and no one dared stop them because they were so big and so strong. As they wheeled the cart away, they shouted, "Belly buttons, tasty baby belly buttons." But the oni did not take Uriko. Perhaps this was because she was born from a melon, and she did not have a belly button. Uriko was furious at what the oni had done. "Father, make me a sword," she commanded. "Mother, help me cook a big batch of millet dumplings. I am going to Onigashima to rescue the babies." Her parents were afraid for their little daughter, but at last they agreed that she could go so long as she took the dog with her. The next morning, Uriko set out, wearing a shiny new sword at her side and carrying a heavy sack of millet dumplings on her back. She and the dog marched along the path together. Tontako, tontako. Suddenly, they heard a terrific whirring sound. A pheasant flew down and blocked their way, calling, "Ken, Ken, Ken! I smell millet dumplings!" "We are going to Onigashima to rescue the babies," said Uriko, "and we could use a brave companion. If you will join us, we will share our dumplings with you." She tossed a dumpling to the bird, who swallowed it in one gulp. "Yes," said the pheasant, "I will join you." And so Uriko and the dog and the pheasant marched along the path. Tontako, tontako. They entered a dark forest. A monkey swung down from the trees and blocked their way, showing his sharp teeth and chattering, "Kya, kya, kya! I smell millet dumplings!" "We are on our way to Onigashima to rescue the babies," said Uriko, "and if you will come with us, we will share our millet dumplings with you." She tossed a dumpling to the monkey, and he ate it greedily. "Wonderful!" he cried. "This millet dumpling makes me feel like stronger than 10 monkeys! Let's go!" Soon they reached the castle, where they found a boat, and they sailed to the rocky shore of Onigashima. They saw a castle on a cliff high above them, and in the distance they could hear, "Belly buttons, tasty baby belly buttons." The 4 companions followed the steep path to the top of the cliff. They walked boldly up to the castle gate, and they knocked. Dum, dum. And the door creaked open. They looked up at the hairy knees, the huge belly, the green face, and the sharp horns of the chief Oni. But the girl and the dog and the pheasant and the monkey were so small that the chief Oni did not see them at all. Quickly they ran between his legs, and they were inside the castle. In the center of the courtyard sat the babies, all tied up together, crying so sadly. "Bodo, bodo, bodo, bodo!" 3 green Oni and 3 red Oni danced around the babies, singing, "Belly buttons, tasty baby belly buttons." Do you want to see Brian? Oh, I don't know how to do that. You just have to take my word for it. In the center of the courtyard sat the babies, all tied up together, crying so sadly. Bodo, bodo. Wait, I already read that page. Ay. "I command you to give the babies to us," shouted Riku, and the Oni stopped dancing. "Who dares speak to us in such an insulting way?" shouted the chief Oni. "Is there an invisible spirit in our castle?" The Oni ran around the courtyard, and they looked everywhere. When at last they saw Riku and her minuscule companions, they laughed until their stomachs shook and tears ran down their faces. "We are taking the babies back to where they belong," Riku told them, "and if you try to stop us, you'll be sorry."
I didn't do like a final swearing before I put in.
The Oni grabbed their clubs. "We will crush you like ants!" they roared. "Charge, my fearless fighters!" cried Riku, and she rushed to guard the babies. The dog raced around the Oni's feet and nipped at their toes, and when they tried to bash him with their clubs, they smashed their own feet instead. The monkey climbed on the Oni's legs and bit their knees, and when they tried to knock him off, they smacked their own kneecaps instead. The pheasant flew around and around the Oni's heads and dived at their eyes, and when the Oni tried to brush her away with their clubs, they bopped each other on the head and fell to the ground. Look at those silly Oni. Riku took her sword and she cut the ropes that tied the babies, and then she lifted them onto her cart and gave each one a dumpling. "You may live here on your island," she told the defeated Oni, "but do not ever set foot in our country again." We promise, Bodo, Bodo, sobbed the Oni. "Just go away and leave us alone, Bodo, Bodo." Riku had to give each one of the Oni a millet dumpling too, so that they would stop crying. The monkeys and the pheasant searched the castle, and they found many bags of gold, another treasure that the Oni had stolen, and they placed them on the cart in between the babies. And then the 4 companions guided the cart down to the shore. They crossed the ocean, and they hurried to Uriko's village. Soon the babies were in the arms of their happy parents. Uriku gave the bags of gold and treasure to her own mother and father. They returned as much of it as they could to the people the Oni had stolen it from, and they shared the rest with the families in their village. The monkey and the pheasant and the dog stayed with Uriku at her house, and in the evenings they would sit by the fire and munch millet dumplings and tell and retell the story of their adventure in Onigashima. The end. Do you guys want to see Dave? There's Dave.
This is Dave. He's our dog.
See you next time.
Bye.